Hi, Kelly.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me okay?
Well. Let's go probably this way vertically. Okay, wonderful. All right, great to see you. I was really looking forward to this. We have I've tried to do it a few times now, and it was. I mean, Sanctuary. I mean. I always like to emphasize to our listeners in this program that sanctuary life is incredibly, incredibly demanding. And things could change at the drop of a hat at any moment. There could be an emergency and not just that, and the staff are incredibly dedicated. Usually they are wearing many hats, multiple hats during the day. So it's actually well within what I expect. But I'm very, very glad that we are doing this today.
Me too, and thank you for being so patient and understanding. We have been trying to get this scheduled for, I don't know, almost a month now, and every time we get it rescheduled, unfortunately, like Faik mentioned, something happens at the sanctuary. And here at Luvin Arms, unfortunately, we've had quite a few resident passings, which has been extremely difficult. And again, speaking of passings, you know, I just want to reiterate that Luvin Arms sends our love to Happily Ever Esther and their family as well today.
Very, very sorry to hear that, Kelly. And, you know, it's part of that sort of bearing witness, and then, you know, coming face to face with, you know, animals, their lives, their passing, and it's something that really makes sanctuaries such a special place. Animal lives are so taken for granted. I mean, they're taken more for granted in modern civilization. I would call it society. Civilization is a little bit applying a little bit conservatively to whatever we have going. I don't call it civilization yet. I think it's pre-civilization. And part of it is, you know, bearing the witness. Yesterday, I posted on Instagram, there is this picture I saw, and it really, really impacted me. It was me and a pig, Wilbur, in Animal Place. He passed away in 2019. And when I saw the image, it actually reminded me of, there were so many feelings that came back. And you know, because sometimes for people who are not used to being around animals, getting to know them as people, and then when they pass, that is a very, very impactful event. So I fully and wholeheartedly empathize and understand the challenges and the type of bravery that you face the world with day in and day out. So Kelly, tell us a little bit about Luvin Farm. Tell us the story. Tell us how it started, and then how you came into this story.
Yeah, absolutely. So Luvin Arms has been a farmed animal sanctuary since 2015. And they actually started off in a rental property down in Lafayette, Colorado, not too far south of where we're currently at. And then in 2017, when the property here in Erie became available, the Shaws stepped in and purchased it right away, making it the permanent placement for our residents. And really, I wish Charlene was here on the call, because when Charlene, who is one of the co-founders of Luvin Arms, tells and recounts the story and the reason behind why their family moved forward to starting the sanctuary, cannot be replicated by anyone else. Charlene has this beautiful way of like telling the story through his tone, and you know, you can always see that he like relives these moments when he tells the story. So I'll try to do it some justice. So really, the sanctuary started because Charlene, again, one of the co-founders, and his wife Shilpi, they were at a point in their lives when they were kind of ready to maybe integrate an animal into their home, right, into their family, not necessarily their home, because the animal they chose to integrate was a horse. And so at the time, Charlene had essentially adopted this horse, and his intent was, you know, to connect with her, but also to ride her. And one of the things was Charlene grew up in India, and he kind of remembered some times and some days, you know, of being a child in India and being able to do some horseback riding. And, you know, those memories were very happy, and he just wanted to kind of relive those opportunities and make new memories, especially since he had 2 younger kids with him. Well, once he got Holly, they worked, meaning Charlene, as well as several trainers and specialists, worked with Charlene and Holly to get them to kind of sync up so they could, so Charlene could ride Holly. Well, no matter how hard Charlene worked and no matter how hard, the different tasks that were thrown at Holly, Holly continued to communicate to Charlene, "You're not riding me. Period. That's not my intention in life." And Charlene, over the course of many months, really grew connected to Holly and began to see her, right? Like, she's communicating to me, this is not her purpose. It's not my job to subjugate you to do what I want. And I think it's because of that realization, it was like, oh, okay. And so as they did more, research behind proper care for horses and what's the best environment, those sorts of things, they came across that, boarding is not the best housing option for horses, right? Because they're only really taken out if someone intends on using them for riding. And again, Charlene had already made that decision. That's not her purpose in life. And so that's kind of where they started digging a little bit more, and the concept of sanctuary came to be. And so once they started doing a little bit more research and talking with loved ones and friends and partners, it really came down to, we need to start a sanctuary. But recognizing, that a board situation was not ideal for Holly, they also recognized that Holly needed companionship, right? So that's really how Luvin Arms really came to be. So they embarked on their first rescue of a resident who unfortunately passed during this rescheduling that you and I were doing, and that was of Belle. And Belle was being sold at a slaughter auction. There was a rumor that was circulating amongst kind of the sanctuary world here in Colorado that there was a pregnant mare that was going to be auctioned off for slaughter. And of course, no, absolutely not. So Charlene went to that auction, and, he had to almost sit through, I believe it was about 6 hours worth of various farmed animals being auctioned off for slaughter, which was heart-wrenching. And it was so upsetting to see these animals where they pulled onto the floor, right? They're poked and prodded, they're kicked at, they're hit. And so while seeing all of these other, species of farmed animals, before they even got to this one specific horse that he came for, that's kind of when that light bulb went off. Like, I'm not just meant to rescue horses, right? We need to rescue all farmed animals. So that's really how the sanctuary came to be. Now, fast forward quite a few years. In 2020, a really good girlfriend of mine had asked me if I wanted to go visit a farmed animal sanctuary. And I was like, wow, yeah, that's amazing. I've never been to one. What are you talking about? So she's like, it's actually in Erie. And so when I looked at the location, like, when I tell you, this sanctuary is like 7 minutes from my house, and I've been living there for at least 7 years, right? Had no idea this little tiny place of heaven existed literally outside my backyard. So we decided to sign up, and we took a tour. And at the time that I took a tour back in 2020, there were 2 different tours that were being offered. The first kind was called Connect, and those were geared more towards younger children, maybe families, really focusing on the sentience of farmed animals and talking about the really cool traits that some of these, residents have. And then there was the Compassion Tour. And so we had signed up for the Compassion Tour. We should have read the writing, but really there's a silver lining to all of this. So we signed up for the Compassion. So it's myself, really good girlfriend of mine, and my 2 youngest kids. They were 2 and 7 at the time. When I showed up for the tour, my tour guide immediately pulled me to the side and said, "You do know what tour you signed up for, right?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's Compassion. We already paid. We signed the waiver. We're good." No, I don't think you understand. Like, do you know what tour you signed up for? And so I was like, well, now I'm kind of scared. What did I sign up for? And so she just explained to me that the Compassion Tour is very advocacy based, right? They talk about CAFOs. They talk about the cruelties that farm animals face. And so I was just like, oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine, right? My 2-year-old's going to go over his head. My 7-year-old, she's going to be so distracted with cute farmed animals. And, I'll use this as a good learning opportunity for myself. So then we start off on the tour, and our tours still operate in the same fashion as far as like who we visit first, second, third, fourth. And so we started with horses, and my tour guide goes into everything about horses, right? The cruelties, the slaughter, Premarin, everything you can think of. And I'm standing there like, oh, wow, okay, this is not what I thought it was. But it was very informative, and I was not turned off by it. But as we continued, then we went over and did birds. Then we ended up in Big Barn, which I will take you all in there later to meet some of our fabulous residents. And there was a baby cow that was there, and she was in one of the cow stalls, and she was itty bitty, maybe the size of like a golden retriever, and she was cuddled up with a cow stuffed animal, and that's Marley Rose. And, you know, the tour guide had shared with us that Marley Rose had only been there for about a few weeks, and then she went into the whole dairy industry, right, with everyone in the tour. And I'm standing there with my two youngest kiddos, and my 2-year-old is like cuddled up with Marley Rose and is just petting her, and my 7-year-old sitting there and just like staring into her eyes. And as a mother standing there listening to how the dairy industry works and seeing my own kids, right, like that was the moment. It was like, what am I doing? Like, what this, you know, like my dietary choices, my lifestyle choices, everything. Like, what am I doing with my life? Why am I partaking in all of this? And, you know, when I reflect back, I guess I was a little bit shameful of myself. Like, how did I not know that this is how the dairy industry operated? And so,
wait, no.
Oh,
so
yeah,
wait, this is important. So you weren't vegan at that point. You weren't. I see.
I was not.
Okay.
I was pescatarian. Mm-hmm. So then, you know, so I'm standing there and I'm just hearing babies ripped away from mothers and seeing my own 2 kids there. And again, you know, I've heard people say, oh, that's so cheesy, but I literally placed myself in that mother cow's position, right? And looked at my kids as those baby cows. And that was it. So I went home and was forever changed. Was like, we're going vegan, right? And we're going to do this. So though it was easy for some family members, I do live in a blended family situation where I have 2 step kiddos. And it still continues to be like teachable opportunities for my 2 step kids to do it, right? And it's a little bit harder when you have like another parent that is telling those kids like, that's stupid, vegan is stupid. But, you know, they have made small incremental changes within their own dietary lifestyle choices. So that's worked out really well. But after leaving Luvin Arms, I was just so touched by my experience. And at the time, I was a principal at a K through 12 school. And so I just went back and just kind of reflected. And I just kind of made this like little promise to myself that if this sanctuary ever has a job that's related to education, that does anything with talking to the community, teaching lessons, I'm going to do it. And so 2 years passed, and then Luvin Arms posted their position for the Humane Educator and Outreach Coordinator in very beginning of 2022. I saw the post. I had alerts set on my phone specifically for Luvin Arms on Indeed. And when I saw that, it was like, I got to apply. So I applied. And as you can probably tell, I ended up getting the position. I did leave my principal job, and hopefully there's no one out there that shames me for this. But I left before the end of the school year because I made that promise to myself over 2 years ago, you know, from the day that I had applied, that if this place ever opened up a job, I would go. I don't care where I was at in life. I don't care if I was in the most ideal, highest paying position that I could possibly go to. Like, I was meant to be here. So I got the job, and then I have been with Luvin Arms since April of 22. And now I do serve as the managing director here, and absolutely am obsessed with this place. And I love telling you about it.
It's so incredible, the story that you just shared with us. There are just so many themes intertwining. And, you know, somebody could spend like a day just unpacking it. Like, for example, you just touched on the power of exactly where places like Luvin Farm exist, where somebody comes, like you were at the point, you weren't even vegan, and then you go from non-vegan, not just to vegan, to an animal rights activist right away because of that experience. And that you could just imagine how many people, how many other Kellys out there who just haven't had that opportunity yet. And then what? So
exactly.
And of course the other, I mean, that there will be all kinds of other themes about how we get desanitized to violence. So we accept it as it's just part of life. And I think it does, and I absolutely believe it starts with animals. When we see baby cows being kidnapped and all kinds of things, and then we just justify it to ourselves. It's just how life is. It corrupts our psyche, and eventually, I mean, it corrupts it. I mean, starting with animals, but eventually it bleeds into human relationships, and at that level, we justify that level as well. Well, because our entire psyche is so steeped into this sort of exploitation dynamic, and sanctuaries have such a potential to be a to completely change that. So Kelly, that has been so 2022. So we started with the sanctuary. You said April. So about a year and a half now that you have been with the sanctuary. Yeah, wow. Yeah, I mean, when I was talking to you last time, and from our communication, I thought you were working there for decades. I mean, you're. It does.
Feels like
it just feels so natural. You just feel so natural in that role. But I just assumed that I even assumed that you probably were there since the founding of the sanctuary. It just looks so natural to you. Like that rule looks so natural. So walk us through, if you're okay with that, please, through a typical day for you. So in a typical day, what do you do? Or typical day for you, I mean, personally, if you want to, but also the sanctuary. What are the kinds of things that the sanctuary engages in terms of care for animals, in terms of education, in terms of everything?
Yeah, so my days are busy, very busy. And since I joined the team, back in April of 22, I went from a pretty, what do you want to say? Like, I knew what I was going to do each day. Like, I had a lot of control over, what events I was going to support or what field trips I was accepting. But then stepping into the managing director role, now I am supporting in all departments and at a very different level. So I'm usually here, I'm usually here almost 7 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. Partially because I'm just so in love with this place, and being here is also like my self-care. And I'll go into those practices of what I do, which is feeding my pig friends, who are my favorite. But day to day, there's a lot of meetings, there's a lot of coordinating, there's a lot of developing relationships like with you. And then really, I do feel it's very important that I still stay involved in the day-to-day activities I used to do. I still love to give tours. I love that piece. That is very educational. That's the educational piece in me that still lives there. And so I love to be involved with the community. So our insight team, so here at the sanctuary, we refer to ourselves jokingly as like the inside team and the outside team. So the outside team, comprises all of your animal caretakers or our, care specialists. All of our care team specialists are probably the most incredible people in the world that you'll ever meet, like extremely dedicated. They always do what's best for our residents and provide the utmost, like highest quality of care. And then we have our facilities team, who are also extremely amazing and are doing all the day-to-day stuff that a lot of folks don't get to see, such as, repairing fences or fixing, areas that need attention on our resident homes, addressing the maintenance or, kind of the groundskeeping here at the sanctuary. And when we head over to Big Barn, I will give you kind of an overlook of like the sanctuary and where we are, because it really is gorgeous out here. And I'm watching myself in the camera and it looks like my background is like Photoshop, and it's not. Like, those are actually like trees. But yeah, so it's a beautiful place. Care team, they are here from anywhere from 6:30 in the morning until about 9 o'clock at night, caring for those residents. We don't have anyone that lives on site. But we are very fortunate enough to have lots of different like security cameras around that we're able to access 24/7, so we can check in on the property. And we do have really good relationships with the local PD should there be anything that we need to be concerned about. Like if there, in the past there have been shootings, right? Or schools having to close down to any sort of threat. And so we are informed as well, so we can ensure our residents' safety. But, to be really honest with you, every single day is so different here. And that's why I think I love it so much. It keeps you on your toes. And I do think that's what our care team also values is, not every day is the same with the residents. One day Felix may be doing really well. The next day it's like, we got to do a little bit of extra care. Or maybe one of our chickens, right, is struggling. So day to day is very different, but I think that's what makes this place so fun and exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I can only imagine. I actually volunteer at Animal Place as a sanctuary here in Grass Valley, and it's about an hour from where I live. And it's just a gorgeous, also very gorgeous place. And sanctuaries usually are. I mean, it's usually they are out of town and surrounded by at least at least when it's possible. I think there are some sanctuaries like micro sanctuaries and whatever that they could happen. So animal space. So I was there and I interact the most actually with the animal care team that you were describing, because my job mostly is barn cleaning. And this week I was rabbit barn cleaning for the first time. It has been mostly chicken, because chicken are the half the barns that require probably the most labor intensive in terms of cleaning. So that's why what most volunteer time goes. But I've worked with other animals as well, and I just love it. Just love being there. It's so incredibly grounding, so incredibly therapeutic, and so incredibly humbling.
Absolutely.
So since you started working at Luvin Arms, what would you say the most surprising thing you have learned about yourself coming to this? So this is something that you haven't done before, but you probably have imagined things about animals. And what is the most surprising thing that you have learned about animals? And what is the things that you find the hardest working at an animal sanctuary? Because animal sanctuaries, they are on the front line, and it's something that I always like to acknowledge, because I mean, for some people who just see the social media, the interaction, which focus on the individuals and focus on their stories, but day in, day out, hearing about stories, hearing about that kind of horror. And I think it's incredibly important that we bear witness with animal sanctuaries as well, and listen to them tell us about that as well. So what is the hardest thing, and what is the most inspiring thing that you find? Well, dealing with the hardest can be inspiring in ways, in the sense that it requires courage and stuff. But what I meant is the hardest, probably is a better way to ask the question.
So the hardest thing. So for me personally, it is, I mean, I hate to have to go back to this, but it's the hardest thing is, there's actually two. The first one is obviously whenever a resident passes, right? Like I have been very fortunate in my life where I have not had to deal with a lot of personal passing of family members. Either, it's like I didn't know that part of my family, so it wasn't as impactful. When I was in education, I did have a lot of, unfortunate passings of students for various reasons over, the 15 years. But resident passings, I still am not quite at that point where I have recovered from one specific individual's passing that occurred back in May. And, there are days where I love going out there and I love being with the residents, but I also find myself struggling because I don't feel that I've maybe appropriately grieved myself or processed that grief. And so that's one of the hardest things. And I'll also say another very difficult thing here for me in the position I'm in and the type of work we do is seeing the amount of emails phone calls, social media messages, like DMs, about animals needing rescue, right? For all kinds of situations. And the fact that it's so hard, I can't say yes to everyone, right? And so, you know, I've always said, and this is something I constantly have to repeat to myself, is I know we can't rescue our way through this, right? There's no way I could support billions of farmed animals here at the sanctuary. And there are days where I really struggle with the fact when I have to write an email response to someone saying, I'm sorry, I can't take this animal right now, right? We're not in a financial situation. Maybe we don't have the space. We don't have the staffing to do it. Whatever the reason is, but it is heart-wrenching. And it's an unfortunate reality that I have to face, not just every once in a while. This is multiple times a day where I have to say, I am so sorry. I cannot take this individual, right? For whatever reason. And then you think like, okay, that's it for today. And then you're flooded, or you see, you know, there's some massive hoarding case and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to take all of them. But that's the part for me that I still have to, like, I find myself having to go home and process or do my own self-care, which is going out and being with the residents, right? Like, to reinforce why we do what we do. But it's very difficult. And I will say I was most surprised to see how many requests just that we get. I can only imagine what other sanctuaries receive. And so it's very disheartening, but it is also a drive for me to keep doing what we do, to do that advocacy, to do that educational piece, in hopes that if it changes even one person's perception or actions, it's a win in my book. And so the most inspiring thing, honestly, is just seeing these residents that come from terrible places and learn to trust again, right? Like like we have one pig here, her name is Lizzie, and she has probably had one of the toughest lives. She's a very public figure in the animal world. You know, she not only came from, you know, an actual factory farm and was sick, but then she was violated physically, emotionally, by having, you know, parts of her ears cut off for DNA testing here at the sanctuary, a place that was her safe haven. And then losing her sister Lily this year, you know, like, but you see her and it's like she just forgives. And to me, that inspires me to keep doing this work. But also another really inspiring piece is when people walk away from an event that's held here at the sanctuary or after a tour, and they're just like, you know what, I'll try and give up dairy. To me, I'm like, okay, something I said, something a tour guide said, there was that connection made, and that fuels my drive to keep going. And, you know, and in all honesty, we don't hear that all the time, right? There may be people who never say anything but make those choices. And I try to always encourage those who visit, like, you know, when you feel moved or inspired, tell me, share with me, right? Let me be your cheerleader. Or maybe you just need a little bit more like visual reinforcement to keep on that journey. And so maybe that means like you can just come to the sanctuary when you feel that you need kind of that, you know, that fuel to keep going on this journey. So those are the things that are probably.
Well, absolutely. And you know, again, the theme is emerging. And of all the centuries I have had lives with so far, but these are exactly the kinds of things that they say, particularly the hardest thing. Because wanting to rescue, and then, well, there is only so much you can do, particularly considering that the problem is structural. This is at a level of society. And the numbers and the disparity in resources and the numbers is just so much greater. And the thing is that, and that's why I said the most inspiring and the hardest, and I'm not going to try to give you any platitudes or try to take it. It is very hard. It is just is. And the best thing that for somebody like you, I really think of myself, and I want to do even more as an ally for animal sanctuaries worldwide, is to recognize this and to understand the kind of emotional toughness, emotional commitment, the kind of heart, the kind of mind that goes into the kinds of people that go into this line of work. And in my experience, it has been the vast majority of whom are women. There are some men, but majority tend to be women. Very high levels of empathy, very high levels of conscientiousness, very high levels of determination, very, very positive qualities. And it's a subpopulation of humanity that we really should protect, and we should celebrate, and we should empower. I absolutely believe in that. Yeah, very, very deeply. So we would love to go visit with the animals now. And before we do that, I just want to remember, and quite a few people have joined us today, actually. It's actually, I'm very excited, and some of them are actually sending greetings to you. And so and there will be people, usually there will be quite a few people watching this recording, so I'll be more than happy to share it with you if you would like to share it as well. So for our listeners, this is Faik Bouhrik, the founder of the Vegan Stay, and this is Kelly Nix, the managing director at Luvin Farm Animal Sanctuary in Colorado. And Kelly graciously provided us and gave us time today to tell us her own story, the story of the sanctuary, and she's gonna have us visit with the sanctuaries shortly, with the animals short rather the sanctuary already. And so please give Luvin Arms a follow if you are one of our followers, and also the Vegan Stay if you are a follower of Luvin Arms. By the way, Kelly, one more question before we go visit animals. Tell us about volunteering and donations. So if I would like to make a donation to the sanctuary, how do I go about it? Volunteering at the sanctuary, how do we go about it?
Yeah, so the answer is really simple for both volunteering and if you are interested, and hopefully you will, make a donation to the sanctuary. You would just go to our main page, and that is www.luvinarms, and that's LUVINARMS.org. When you get to the main screen, you will see some words, tabs at the very top, and one of that is volunteer. You'll just follow the process there. We offer volunteer sessions 7 days a week, even on holidays. We offer AM and PM shifts, and they're about 3 hours. Obviously, individuals who want to stay longer than the 3 hours are always welcome to do so. And there's tons of opportunities, whether if it's direct animal care, if it's helping with the maintenance and facilities area, if it's maybe a special event like our gala or a festival that we have. Those are all opportunities open to volunteers. We do not require that volunteers do X amount of hours in order to maintain their volunteer status. You are welcome to volunteer as many times as you want or as little as you want. And then as far as donate, if you follow us on social, we always have a donate link connected to every post, but also on our main website. There's lots of ways to get involved or to give back. But also for those of you who are local or will be in the state of Colorado towards the end of the month, we also have our Tito and Maggie's Trick or Treat Barn Street hallway, where kiddos will come, adults can come dressed up as they wish, and then you get to go trick or treat at each of the resident stalls. And we are being sponsored by Trupo Treats, if you're familiar with them, and their fabulous chocolate candies, as well as Natural Grocers, providing vegan Halloween candy.
That is so wonderful to hear. And do you have also opportunities to sponsor animals?
Absolutely. And sponsorship is probably one of our most successful programs. We allow sponsorship of any of our 130 animal residents that we have here. I will definitely say our one species that could use some extra love and sponsors is our bird population. Obviously, I'm sure most people know, like most people are like, I'm going to sponsor a cow, pig, goat, but then it's like chicken. But our girls and our boys, fabulous. So definitely
sounds
check that
wonderful.
out.
And you know what, Kelly? I'm one of your sponsors now. I will add a bird in November. Yay. So, and I encourage everybody listening to us to please do the same. This is Kelly Nix, Luvin Arms. Please consider sponsoring animals, volunteering, even just the very fact of just clicking on follow on social media will help the sanctuary spread the message. And you never know how a seed is planted. You never know. You never know how the seed is planted. And then if, as Kelly was telling us earlier today, that it just shows you one event can be a life-changing event.
Yeah.
And I just also want to mention that Luvin Arms is one of our partners at the Vegan Stay. In fact, we will change the name to Vegius by the end of this month, and we'll be launching our AI-powered app. And we will be working together in the coming months and years, hopefully to change the landscape in which vegan animal sanctuaries exists, so that they have more of the resources they so richly deserve and that they so richly need, so that they can focus more on the educational part of their missions and on the rescuing of animals, instead of having to wear a billion or trillion actually hats a day, you know, trying to fundraise, trying to do X, Y, and Z. But I have a lot of hope, Kelly, and I'm incredibly happy that we are part of in each other's journeys now, and it makes me incredibly happy. So, absolutely,
thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, are you ready,
so ready
to go
see the
some residents? All right, and I promise I will take my sunglasses off once we're indoors, but I'm going to go ahead and please bear with me.
Are there ribbons?
As I
the glasses? There are ribbons? Oh, yeah.
No, I don't. Yeah, they are an Amazon knockoff.
I thought you say they're not. I see.
No,
I had the ribbons and I lost them on a trip one.
But I like to fool people. Yeah. They
look
like $12.
pretty cool.
They look great. So
they still look really cool. I just love the style. I had one and I lost it recently, so I kind of miss it. So.
Oh, yeah, just
Amazon,
$12.
Great
totally
solution.
worth it. I will. So while I'm transitioning, meaning walking from where I've been to Big Barn, it may get a little spotty. Just bear with me. It should get better once we get into Big Barn, but I'm going to go ahead and flip my camera and we're going to go meet the residents. All right. So this is our main, again, house, but it's used as office spaces and meeting spaces. I do always love to show this. This was completed last summer by a wood sculptist from a tree that had essentially died here on the property. But you'll see here, these all are modeled after current residents and now residents that have passed away. But up there is Tito, and you'll get to meet Tito here shortly. And then we've got a pig, but definitely a showstopper and a beautiful piece when you first get here to the sanctuary. So we'll walk, and then the sun is pretty bright that way, but when you look west, you have the Rocky Mountains. It's gorgeous. Sunsets here are incredible. So hopefully if you ever make it out to Colorado, you'll come by here. If anything, pet some animals, learn their stories, and then enjoy the sunset. Even though we are a farmed animal sanctuary, we do believe in advocating for all species. This is a very beautiful mural that was done by a former staff member. And I love to point this out on tours, particularly because you have that scuba diver and an octopus. And I always like to reference and highlight that wonderful documentary, My Octopus Teacher, for those who have not seen it, to just get an understanding of sea life and the sentience of sea life. All right, so this tour experience might be a little bit different in that I am kind of known to many of these residents as the treat lady. So a lot of them will come running up to the gate. As you can see, our goats are just kind of like, they hear me, they know I'm here, so they're gonna follow me. But don't mind it. We'll definitely go in with all of them. So here, this is what we call Big Barn, and this is home to sheep, cows, pigs, and goats. And then over here to my left, past that trailer where you see a red building on the left side, that is where our equines stay. We have 2 horses, 3 donkeys. And then over here to my right, you see 2 smaller red barns. That is what we refer to as our bird barns. And so we have turkeys, ducks, chickens, roosters, from all different backgrounds. So now we're going to go into Big Barn. And as you can tell, it's pretty quiet and laid back because most of the residents are so regimented in their schedules that For pigs, especially after dinner, they might go out into the pasture for just a couple more minutes, and then they know it's night time. So the first area we'll start over here are our beautiful sheep. We have 14 of them. This is Huckleberry, and he was rescued last summer, essentially due to a very bad case of neglect, no medical care, and it was also domestic violence was related, not to the animals per se, but that's the reason why they ended up here. We've got Jarrett there in the far back corner, and his mama's right next to him, and that's Maxine. Maxine was actually rescued from California. She, along with other sheep, were found eating wool off of one another for sustenance. They had no food, no water. Shortly after Maxine's rescue, she gave birth to triplets. So Jared there in the far back corner, the girl right in front of her, that's Jacqueline, the black sheep of her family. And then Lexine, the one lying down, is the third of the triplets. And this is Shy. He's definitely not shy. He is absolutely adorable. And see, so I told you the goats, they know I'm here. So they're all patiently waiting. So this is Garbanzo.
Hi, Garbanzo.
And then there's his brother Lentil. And Garbanzo and Lentil, we do refer to them as the Bean Boys or the Bean Brothers. This is
Hi, Xander.
And he's so cute. And he's kind of what we refer to as our socially awkward guy. Generally, when you come to Big Barn, he's either standing in that corner with his face against, like, into the corner, or you could just be standing there, and if you've ever had that feeling someone's watching you, it's because it's usually Xander, and he's like peeking around the corner watching you. But they're all super lovable, very sweet. These two guys here are Teddy and Finn. Finn is the one standing up. Teddy is the one lying down. Teddy is our tripod. He is missing his front left leg, and his leg had to be amputated due to an unfortunate shearing incident. And then his buddy Finn is the one standing. They were actually rescued from a feedlot located directly next to JBS Slaughterhouse here in Greeley. I'm sure you can imagine what sheep are used for. And how animals in feedlots are treated. And so we're so thankful to have these two boys. They are separated because they are older and they do require additional food and calorie intake. And so once they're done eating, the care staff people will come in, they'll open up the gates, and all the sheep will be together. I don't know if Kathy McGee is still on the call, but this is one of our favorite boys. This is Felix. And Felix is our oldest.
Oh, wow, okay.
8 years old.
Hi, Felix.
Yeah, and so pigs can live like 10 to 12 years, and the really, really cute thing about him, besides everything, is that his tongue always hangs out. I don't have any treats, babe. I don't have any treats. I'm sorry. I know. And then there's Alfie.
Kelly, you said they live 10 years, 12 years. And that just tells you how little people know that what they eat are actually babies. The pigs that end up in slaughterhouse are babies.
Oh, yeah. Like 6 months. Yeah. About 6 months old when they're usually slaughtered. So, and, you know, I will say another very inspiring moment is when I'm giving tours and people come in here and they see the size of Felix, right? Or let's go down this way. He's going to follow. But I mentioned earlier about Lizzie. But if you look at Lizzie, she's our biggest pig now, and she's 6 years old. And Lizzie is the one, if you're familiar with all of the Smithfield trial, all of that, the two piglets that were rescued.
Oh, she is
one of the two. The second one was the second one that was rescued was Lily, but she passed away. But when I had talked about, you know, being able to, hi, sweet girl, I don't know, but being able to trust again and being violated in her own home, here you'll see the top of her ears. Those were the parts that were cut off for DNA testing. But look at her. She's just, she's shifting her body because she wants belly rubs. I will tell you that is probably my most favorite activity in the world. is just to give
Absolutely.
belly
They are
rubs.
incredibly affectionate and sensual.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And it honestly, it's really fun to watch because no matter what a pig is doing, if they're standing there and you just go up and just stick your hand gently under their belly and rub, it's like kryptonite to them. They drop and they roll and they are just ready. It is probably one of the most fun things to do. And that's actually part of my self-care regimen, is to come out here and do pig belly rubs, especially on a hard day. And then over here, so we have 9 big pigs total. Felix is the alpha. He is the king of the pigs. And everyone else falls into a certain ranking. Lizzie, the gal we just met, is number 2. This is Ophelia. And Ophelia and her sister Athena were rescued from a roadside zoo. And she's probably our smartest pig. And a lot of people also don't know that pigs are extremely intelligent, you know, and have been compared to have the same intelligence level of like a 3 to 4-year-old toddler. And I feel like I can personally attest to that. I referenced my 2-year-old son back from 2020. Obviously working here, he's come here. And I will definitely say, even to this day, many of the pigs have outsmarted my son. So they are definitely as intelligent, if not more, than even 5-year-old children. But here you'll see 5 of our other big pigs, 3 of them, the 3 back here. So the guy in the far back, that's Gilmore. He is my heart. And then next to him, right in front of him, is his sister Brinkley. His brother Garth is back there. And so you'll see the 5. Ophelia, I think, is just still kind of hanging on for maybe there's going to be more treats before she settles down. And generally, she is the first pig to go to bed, so I'm a little bit surprised she's not asleep yet.
So they sleep before sunset?
Oh, go ahead. Oh, yeah. These guys, yeah, they are, I mean, all of these guys, they're out. Like, they will not be up again unless they have to go to the bathroom, which pigs will always go outside. Or at least our pigs, and all pigs, if they have access like for an indoor and outdoor space, they always go potty outside. They hate to go potty clean where they sleep and eat. Very clean. Like you can walk around with no shoes on and just maybe have dirt on your feet, but nothing else. But here we have our cows, our 3 cow boys. This guy here is Tito, and for those who know about Luvin Arms, Tito came to us when he was 10 days old. He's known as a veal extra. And so if you know about that, I'm not going to go into all of that, but he's now 6 years old. So we are so thankful to have him, and he's our official ambassador here. Love him, super great. This guy is Milo. And he's super cute. When we let the front of his hair grow out, it's very curly, and it's just so fun to play with. But he's 7. And then this guy over here, this is Lucky. You may have seen him on a recent social media post celebrating his rescueversary. And so that's Lucky. All 3 boys, so sweet, so kind, love attention. And then I had referenced about a baby cow that changed my life, and that's her. This is Marley Rose. Now, 3 years later. And another fun fact to point out is, you know, that regardless of gender, all cows grow horns. A lot of people don't know that. They think it's specifically just for male cows. But Marley Rose is here to show them that that is not true. But Marley Rose came to us from Wisconsin. She is known as a free martin. And then here is Samantha, and she's also a free martin. And a fun little fact about Luvin Arms, we actually we're a farmed animal sanctuary surrounded by farms that use animals for product. So if you see the property right over here with the buildings and stuff, that's a dairy farm. And so, I turned around and Marley's right there. But I find that, it's unfortunate. And I will say around springtime, it's heartbreaking to be next to a dairy farm. but it is probably one of the strongest tools we have as a sanctuary when it comes to teaching.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, Kelly, this is another thing that's typical of the number of sanctuaries I have hosted so far. Well, and it does make sense because sanctuaries usually they are in the country, and that's where the farms are. It's mostly farm, so it's not surprising. I mean, it's unfortunate, very unfortunate, but it's not surprising.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and like you said, like that is, I'm sure it is, yeah, absolutely very common because we are definitely more rural than we are urban. But it's really great because, you know, a lot of times as a former educator, I love to use visuals when teaching folks about new things, and having the dairy farm, being able to see all those moms up there directly from where our cows are is a really great tool for us to really drill home. Yeah. But anyways, last but not least, this is Miss Maybell, and she's our newest cow, but she's our oldest one. She's 8. And if you haven't, please check out her story. It is located on our social media page, and I believe it went up around July of this year, but she was used as a bell cow. And for doing the work that I do and learning all the terrible stories and the cruelties that animals face, I have to say that bell cows are probably not as well represented, even though she may not have been forced to have multiple babies or, you know, mistreated. The emotional toll that she went through of leading her loved ones onto slaughter trucks, to me, is probably the most tragic. And the even more heart-wrenching part is that Maybell is like a huge golden retriever. She licks and licks and she cuddles, and, you know, her personality just speaks for herself. And I will say, since having Maybell join the Luvin Arms family, it has really shifted a lot of individuals' thinking about cows. And if, you know, folks would all just give animals that opportunity, I think they would see. But yeah,
hi, Miss Maybell. Very pretty, very beautiful. Cows are such a gentle creatures.
Oh my goodness, they are. Either they're very gentle or they're very sassy.
Exactly.
It's one of the
two. Absolutely.
So yeah, so those are just some of our residents here.
Kelly, for that. That's really, really awesome. I personally feel I have a glimpse. I think a tour like this is probably second best to a visit, but it's so certainly I feel I have a sense. And so Kelly, as we are wrapping up, is there any final words you would like to share with our listeners, either recorded or live?
You know, I guess my thing is, and maybe this is also me telling myself this, but, you know, this work is hard, right? And it can be so defeating because it seems like you come across more individuals who don't really care, or are just like, oh, I don't, you know, they have this like a very different mindset, right? Like I've heard so many times, well, it's already dead. What's the harm in eating it? So just know, even though it's really hard work and sometimes can feel like it's not worth it at times, but just know at the end of that tunnel, it's absolutely worth it. And not only being a sanctuary to farmed animals, I want folks to know that sanctuaries are also sanctuaries for people. This is a place for healing and hope for everyone. And you know, I hate to say, but, you know, like I definitely don't believe in using animal products of any kind, right? Or in any capacity. But it's these animals that keep me going. So I use their love in order to keep striving in the work that I do. Look, she's like, yes, she does. But yeah, so just keep going. It's hard, but keep going. And when you need, you know, I really do encourage people, like, go to your local sanctuaries. Check them out, go connect with a farmed animal, and people will forever see how their life will be positively changed and impacted just by going to a local farmed animal sanctuary.
Absolutely. So very well said. And I just would like to remind our listeners, I'm Faik Bouhrik, the founder of the Vegan Stay, and talking to Kelly Nix from Luvin Arms. Kelly has graciously provided us with a tour. She gave us time to tell us the story. Kelly is so incredibly grateful, and I would like to remind and encourage our listeners, either live or on the recording, please follow Luvin Arms. Please consider becoming members. I'm going to become a member myself starting in November. Sponsoring an animal is incredibly special way of doing this. So I encourage everybody to do it. Please consider volunteering, consider visiting, consider just joining the social media. Being part of a family, being a part of a sanctuary family is an experience unlike any other, and I cannot emphasize that enough. And Kelly, thank you so very much for what you do day in and day out. I don't know what else. Absolutely.
Thank you.
I cannot wait to visit in person, and I cannot wait how the coming months and years are going to manifest for us. And as you were saying, yes, I know I always remind myself that yes, people are not a great species, but they are a species that's capable of greatness. So let's work together. Let's work together to tease that out. As you were saying, as hard as it is, but change doesn't come easy. Change does not come easy. Change does take commitment.
No.
And it's very unfortunate that these animals aren't yet seen for what they are, but we will do our absolute best so that they are. So thank you so very much for today and for every single day, for what you do for every single animal. And have a wonderful day, and I cannot wait to cross paths very soon again.
Me too. Thank you so much. And thank you,
Kelly, and thank you for our
watching.
listeners and viewers. Bye, Kelly. Bye, everybody. Bye.